Essential business news as it breaks. Now on BBC World News, live from Singapore, Asia Business Report.
China is set for its latest growth numbers. Is the boom turning into a slowdown? And digging deep, the industrial action that has halted production at one of the world's biggest copper mines. Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us. I'm Rico Hizon. China will unveil its latest economic figures in a few hours' time. Analysts forecast growth to have slowed during the second quarter to close to 9% from 9.7%. And economists expect the slowdown to go further. The BBC's Juliana Liu explains why.
Pork. It's China's favorite meat and lies at the heart of Beijing's plans for the economy. A jump in food costs is one of the main reasons why China wants to slow growth. The price of pork has risen by more than 50% in the last year. That's helped push inflation to a 3-year high of 6.4% last month. And it's not just food. Faced with higher fuel costs as well, anger is spilling out onto the streets. In April, truck drivers in Shanghai scuffled with police over the high cost of diesel. It's all coming at a time when China's leaders are especially sensitive to signs of unrest. They're in the midst of passing power to a new generation of politicians. Untamed inflation could hurt their chances of a smooth handover. As a result, China's central bank has been ordered to put the brakes on the economy. It's raised interest rates 3 times this year, and the Chinese currency, the yuan, has been allowed to appreciate in value. All of this is having an effect, and with inflation still so high, analysts expect Beijing to continue cooling growth. What they're less certain of is how far measures will go, and what it'll mean for China and the rest of the world. Juliana Liu, BBC News.
And for more on the Chinese economy, I'm joined in our studios by Tony Nash, Head of Research at the Economist Intelligence Unit in Singapore. Tony, thank you so much for joining us. 9.7 to 9%. Are you concerned about this slowdown?
We're not really concerned. We're not as bearish as that. We see a gradual slowdown in the Chinese economy. We see things. We've seen the impact of the anti-inflationary measures in the latter part of the quarter. We see things slowing down more dramatically later in the second half of the year. So the second half of the year, we see about 8% growth. In the second quarter, we think things will have slowed down just a bit.
9.7% to 9% to 8% at the end of the year. How much of an impact is a 0.1% or a 0.5% or a full percentage point decline in the Chinese economy to Asia and the rest of the world?
Sure. We see the impact more directly in Asia. So the Asia-ASEAN trade or the Asia-Japan trade is where you'll see the most direct impact. With, say, the States or Europe, we see a more indirect impact, perhaps on prices or on, say, inflationary activity in those markets, more than we see the direct impact here in the Asian region.
Inflation above 6%, interest rates raised several times this year, and reserve requirements. Have they already peaked? Are we set to see these numbers coming down soon?
Right. We expect inflation to peak in June, July, so we're there. Okay. We don't expect much inflationary increase later in the year. So things will slow down in August, September. We think the RRR is probably at the maximum. The estimate is that at 23.5%, there aren't any additional positive impacts or slowdown impacts. So we're at 22 now. There's not much more they can do. Interest rate rises, we think, are topped out. Maybe there's one more if inflation persists, but we really don't see that happening.
All right, not a hard landing, but a slow landing, a soft landing for the Chinese economy. Tony Nash from the Economist Intelligence Unit, thank you so much for joining us.